They say a picture speaks 1,000 words, but I think it works the other way around too. Because spoken by the creator of Solving Whitepine, these 4 words were "You're thinking too small." In my previous excursion to Solving Whitepine, I believed I had revealed most of what there was to see, picked apart this series to the best extent of my ability, but evidently I'd left stones unturned. And so, I made it my mission to rewatch all 3 episodes, armed with my newfound theories and knowledge to inspect each and every element in intricate detail. And I did. This video is about the search that brought me to Adobe stock footage, Thysen-Krupp elevators, and delicious breakfast options. But where I was expecting to maybe brush up a few overlooked tidbits, what I found was a lot more significant than I could ever have imagined. This video is a lot less conclusive than my last. These theories do have loose ends, but this video just serves as a collection of what I found since last time. Also, if you haven't seen my previous video, this one might not make much sense without it. Anyways, back to the video. In my rewatching of episode 1, I came across something rather peculiar. In this scene where Ben returns to his apartment, we can see is a rather lovely view of this massive stone wall. Since he comes out of a train, we can assume that this is the subway station, but what kind of subway station is just a concrete wall with lights on it? However, upon further inspection, we can see that this isn't a building at all. In this shot, we can see the same pattern stretch across both sides of the apartments, but what startled me the most was the presence of a ceiling. These apartments aren't in the middle of the bustling city, they're contained in some sort of facility. This may be realized throughout this entire trilogy, we never see the sky. Sure, it's the big city and all, but you'd expect there to be a few slivers or hints of sunlight, but no. We only get a single shot that points directly up, when Frostbite is complaining about the lack of rain. It's more difficult to tell what exactly is going on here. Maybe it's just cloudy. But if you look closely, there's a dark spot, a gap in the clouds, or perhaps a pipe on a ceiling. No wonder he's not getting any rainfall, there's literally a roof over his head. Is he stupid? Anyways, Frostbite appears to also have a large stone wall, different in design, but perhaps serving the same purpose. And it's not just these 2 instances, these walls are everywhere. They're outside MVTV, and you can see Frostbite's wall behind Espresso Express. It's also interesting to note these quartz pillars. We can see them outside both the Multiversal Times and NVTV, but why would 2 competing news stations housed in completely different buildings have the same design choices? Unless, of course, these pillars aren't part of the building at all. Perhaps they're load-bearing, required to keep up the ceiling outside both establishments. So that leaves the burning question. What are these walls for? Well, walls typically serve one of 2 purposes, to keep things in or to keep things out. If the first case is true, this would support my previous theory of dystopian corporate greed. To have the maximum amount of control over their employees, it would make sense for the Multiversal Times to confine their surroundings. But that doesn't quite explain the walls outside of the news stations, as we can clearly see, they cover the entire city. That brings us to the second scenario. It's a lot less clear what the walls are keeping out, it could be anything really. But you know what this enclosed city kinda reminds me of? An underground bunker, perhaps to survive some sort of apocalypse on the surface. Now, there's not much evidence to back this up, but if it's true, then it wouldn't be the first time Shadowlord 782 has explored this sort of concept. However, at the current state of the series, we just don't have enough evidence to conclusively find an answer to this mystery. I'll just have to save this one for another time. Here's where things get a little weird, so bear with me here. To understand this, we need to make a narrative hierarchy. Basically, this level is the real world, where you're watching this video right now, and this is fiction. For example, the real-life Shadowlord 782 makes the fictional work of Solving Whitepine. Since in our reality, the real-life Ivory makes the fictional Whitepine, it would make sense that in the reality of Solving Whitepine, there would also be a real-life Ivory making the fictional Whitepine. Except they're just one piece of dialogue that completely threw me off.
I thought there was only one episode.
Oh, of Whitepine? Yeah, but Ivory's been to lots of universes.
Oh.
Ivory has been to lots of universes. Not created, not directed, been to many universes. And Sammy isn't referring to the fictional Ivory in the videos here, no. In the previous sentence, she's clearly talking about the real-life Ivory. This seems to imply that in the world of Solving Whitepine, Whitepine and Ivory's other videos are not fictional at all, rather existing in the same narrative level as different universes that Ivory travels between. This would explain a lot of things, Ben saying that the multiverse won't write about itself, and the names of the multiversal times, and what I assume is multiversal TV. But there's an issue with this interpretation. In the series, Whitepine is referred to as a period drama, fictional in nature, and is said to have voice actors, further proving that it is in fact in the realm of fiction. And I believe Whitepine is fictional, the mention of voice actors is just too much to ignore, but what Sammy says still seems to directly contradict this. Again, I don't believe we have conclusive evidence to prove one or another, so we'll just have to wait and see. But there is one theory in this video I can put a conclusion on, and that's this one. The two gray candles. They're everywhere, from desks to shelves to even the boss's curtains. They are present, like an ever-watchful observer, silently gazing upon our characters. Remember Chekhov's gun, every element is meaningful, so what's the meaning of this? Well, I have an answer. You see, Shadowlord says that the tall candle represents how tall he wants his audience to think he is, and the short one represents how tall he really is. And if he said it, guys, it's gotta be canon. Punching in the numbers, this means that in real life, Shadow is 1 foot 3 inches tall. But yeah, that's about it for what I've found so far. One of the links in the cassette tapes does lead to a video about time dilation, but I don't think I wrote the link down and I really don't want to find it again. Anyways, this has been Old G7, and as always, thank you for watching.